Hello everybody, it's vanburman here. Welcome back to another video. Now today we're going to be making some adjustments anyway to the Alphacool Eisbaer 420 Aurora is the one I've got. So it's got this tubing without the extra cold support on it, and what we're going to be doing primarily is disassembling this setup here, cutting some new tubing and hooking it up to a 280mm radiator instead, because I now want to put it in a smaller case that won't take a 420mm radiator. I'm then planning on using the 420 radiator in something else. So everything's got its purpose, which is quite nice. I then also have this very cheap GPU block for water cooling that I want to take a look at. That was really meant to be for another video before any of you guys saw it, I suppose, but yeah, just as another part of it. And if you are interested, I'm just going to quickly go through everything that we've got today. This might be a bit of a long one, guys. It's just one of those. Should be something you should be able to do in a couple of hours, really, properly. So first thing, start with more difficult stuff first, I guess, or perceived difficult. So you need a power supply, which will help, and that's so we can operate the pump. So this particular one is just a spare one I've got lying around. So with your motherboard power, using motherboard power, you can get one of these adapters. What that does is it just shorts the two pins to make it think that it's drawing power, or the motherboard's requesting the power, which turns on the power supply. Just like that. I've seen people, or a lot of the stuff previously was people doing it with a paper clip, which you can do. I don't recommend it. Get one of these, much safer. And you'll also need an adapter for a Molex, or possibly you could jerry rig something with a SATA connector as well, I would have thought. But you want one of these that has basically allows you to put a fan header in. Make sure it's the right one. Luckily my pump is a 3-pin. If you can see, it does have 3 pins in there. No, come on camera, you got to autofocus now. There we go. And yeah, so make sure yours is 3-pin, because some of them will be 4. But yeah, I'm just quite lucky that I already had this one lying around, so that helps. That's probably one of the most bespoke things, and I would say that's what you would need as a minimum, even if you wanted to change the water. So luckily on this AIO, which, yeah, be careful, it does have its own fill port on there. You probably see some AIOs do, some don't. This one is pretty user friendly, or user serviceable in a way, because you can do all this stuff with it. It's all 1/4-inch threads, on the pump and on the radiators as well. So all that stuff's really, really quite useful. It allows you to do a lot of stuff with it. Now the tubing itself from Alphacool is a sort of non-standard size, or not, maybe not non-standard, but a non-popular size. I'm trying to see if it says on here what it is. Yeah, it's 12.7 outer diameter, 7.6 inner diameter, and this comes in a 10-foot coil, I suppose. See if you can see the barcode there, if that helps anyone at some point. There you go, there's that. So plenty, too much tubing. Did I say cable? I didn't say cable, I said cord, didn't I? And yeah, and then for the GPU block, or maybe even for the CPU block, depending, I've got some compatible right angle fittings, which I'll just take out. So if you're looking for it online, you want the sort of Alphacool HF variants of stuff. And then obviously just check that it takes the right one. And this is what they look like. So they screw on, and then they're able to rotate as well, which is pretty nice. It gives you a lot of flexibility, which I'm hoping would be good for a GPU block. Because one of the things that I want to set up as well is having the quick release that we've already got on the system itself, making another one. So effectively we've got the whole GPU thing quick release. Now unfortunately with these particular quick release ones, we do lose a few drops of water when they're opening up, which probably means that because you've got such a relatively small reservoir in on the CPU block, you're probably not going to want to do that too many times before you start thinking about topping it up. So that's just maybe something to have a think about for it. But yeah, that's something that I want to do separately, I suppose, or as part of this whole project. I then got over there a squidgy bottle, which is an EK one, or EK branded one, I think, and then some deionized water as well. I've got some hefty looking scissors over here. These are, you can get a bespoke tool. I'm going to be using this to cut the tubing, and you can do, if you've got some, you know, good sharp quality scissors, just like that, these ones being quite heavy, I think helps as well. Then, you know, you shouldn't have too much of a problem, but ultimately you can get those like, I don't know what you call them, like teethy ones. That also, I've never used them, but that also works as well. And then you also want a, well, mostly clean bowl, actually no, this is quite clean, to get the water out of the system. So the first thing we're going to look at doing, really, I'm going to clear everything aside, is we're going to be looking to drain the loop and get the tubing off the CPU block, and then we're going to, well, I'll go through it as we go, but then we're going to look at the length of some more tubing. So we will cut to that. So back with a slightly different angle, I've made a start on the quick release just so I can show you really what happens when it's undone. So it's basically just a twist on the two together, open it up. There'll be a few drops that come out, so whatever's sort of in these orifices while they're, you know, from last time it cycled or moved or whatever, that will then just come out. So that's a decent start, I suppose. We'll then sort of look to decide where we're going to go next. So probably the next best is to go for the pump block, and we'll take off the one that's currently holding in, or currently was on this end. So we're going to do the one that's attached to the CPU block first, and you unscrew this one here, and then this one will just twist off. There will be some water, or hopefully lots of water, that comes out of this one, so do bear that in mind. We'll shake out whatever's in this tube first. Oop. Not actually that much, although it's not a particularly long piece of tubing, and then should be able to quite easily empty the reservoir in here, just to get things started. Once again, try and keep everything together. That generally tends to help. Good advice for any sort of project there. Ooh. Ooh, whoops. Okay. Right, so I had one of the O-rings come out, not too big of a deal. I'm interested to know exactly how much water's in this. Imagine there's a good amount in the radiator. Fluid they use in this one, but it'll have some sort of inhibitor and stuff like that in it for the metals, even though it is all copper, so I should fill you with some confidence. We'll then just get the radiator and keep the radiator up in the air, and then just, yeah, try and work it out. Let the water find its way. Might take a little bit of time, so probably just now skip to when everything's out. Full disclosure, I had a bit of an issue with this last thread on the radiator, and basically just got a pair of pliers that seemed to do the trick. Just, yeah, a bit stuck on there. Can't see any particular reason to it. Don't think it's crushed the O-ring or anything, no. So, yeah, so we're still pretty good. Nothing too stop us from carrying on, which is probably the main thing. And I've got, I would say, probably like all the water out now, barring a few drops. That's roughly the extent of it. It's quite sticky actually, the fluid, to be honest with you. And yeah, must just be one of Alphacool's mixes. So I'm sure you can get it off the website as well if you're, you know, buying the other stuff for this. Might be worth doing. I do have some EK stuff, some clear concentrate, which I'll throw into my deionized water anyway. So it should be golden, but yeah, just so you're aware, that's what you'll get out of it. Now, obviously we want to get rid of this, which we will do, or yeah, get rid of that, it's gone, there we go. So the next part you want to do is sort of really figure out what your loop is going to look like in a way. And I think for me that will be just going into my case. I will get the new radiator, so I'm going to mount that in there, or apologies, headphone users. So I'm going to temporarily mount that in there, and then yeah, we'll just see sort of how it goes. Obviously this will be in here, yep, just like so. In the new one, nice and easy, no drama. And yeah, we'll just play it out. I'll get some tubing, or I'll just use some of the existing tubing, see if any of that is good enough, or if it's probably too long, just to see if that possibly can work. And yeah, I'll go from then. Then I'll come back with my findings. So things are going to get, or have got a whole lot messy before they got started. So I had to take one of the compression fittings off. It was a right pain, as you can tell. Yeah, effectively they've got some grips that grip into the tubing, which can make it quite difficult actually. So maybe recommend only doing it if you're happy enough to buy spares, because you may well end up needing them. So I was going to use these right angle ones for my GPU block, like I mentioned earlier. But having tested everything, put it in the case, I found that actually this will run quite nicely off of the top of the wall block like that, because this is going to be at the front of the computer. So obviously different cases will be different. I was hoping to mount it at the top, which would have obviously meant that that wasn't going to be the best idea. So I've measured it, cut it down, and we're now ready just to, well, effectively attach this onto here, hopefully. I think it'll go smoothly. So I've already cut it. Luckily I got loads of spare tube, but you know, make sure you, oh, what am I doing? Put this cap on first, then cut it. Sorry, then push it through. I push it through to the end, so it makes good contact, and then hope that you can screw it on when you're done. Okay, so there we are. It's only obviously a very small run, so effectively imagine that this is in the front of the case. If I can get it to really stand up, which I can't, this will go in here, although yeah, that can twist. So that'll go on there on the CPU. That's at the front, so there's actually not a lot of space. It's a very small case. So yeah, always nice to get those much tighter runs between the two. And then the next thing we're going to look at is obviously the quick disconnect. So I'm just going to reuse the one that I've already got. It's obviously quite near the top of the, quite close to towards the radiator, which actually isn't such a bad thing. Like I say, because of the case being as small as it is, that doesn't really have an issue on that. So that will go there, and then what we'll do is I'll probably just not reuse this, but cut this one down, I imagine, although with the hassle I had the last one, maybe it's not worth doing. And then yeah, that one all going through here, and then at some point, once I've got myself prepared in terms of the GPU block, some time has passed. Everything is a little bit of a mess, but I have eventually finally done it. So I used both my 90-degree angles on this, unfortunately, or fortunately I guess, actually, for me. And we'll do a bit more tightening up, but there you go. Yes, it's all been test fitted in the case itself, and yeah, effectively it's going to look a little something like that on top of the bracket, obviously with the cables much more neatly tidied away. And yeah, I'm pretty optimistic, to be fair. Seemingly will do a good job, and looks a bit nicer with the straight angles on there, which I think will be quite good overall. It seems to match up nicely. It does mean that I've lost the 90 degrees I had earmarked for the GPU block, but I think what we'll do is I'll set this up using the straights, so these ones which I've not taken off yet that are left over, and we'll go from there really, and we'll come back when that's set up and I'll look to see how much cabling I need to add it to the other quick disconnect. But effectively, you know, without this other side of things, we're basically done now. We're hooked up to the 280. It just needs, we're not done, but it just needs to be filled now. So you can probably skip ahead through this next bit where I'm going to set up the GPU block. Right, so unfortunately this doesn't quite work in the case. It's quite tight in there, and I don't think these straight fittings are going to suffice, so I'm just going to leave this like this for now, just so everything's all together. But effectively the idea would be that we would mount it like this. I'm thinking if I have the right angle connectors, I can bring it out and around and back in, which is not something I can do with it like this, a bit too rigid. So yeah, just worth bearing in mind. Depends on how big your case is. If it's more than ample enough, you'll be able to get enough tubing to move around, and whatever else you are required to do. So the next stage is we're going to look at filling the loop. So I've got some deionized water, I've got some clear solution from EK, which I'm going to be adding together, and I'm going to stick this into this squidgy bottle, and then we'll go through, hopefully live if I can manage it, the filling and cycling process with the pump. So I'll get that all set up. Right, okay, so power supply is now plugged in. We want to try and get off this fill cap. I think you probably actually can get a little tool for it, but in lieu of that I have a 20p, but any sort of flat thing will do. The only problem is this paint seems to scratch quite easily, so yes, if you can get a plastic tool, I would recommend doing so. But that should, there we go. I loosened it up earlier for this very purpose. So there you go. Now what you should probably start by doing is get it filled, or filled up as much as you can before you start turning the pump on, because you won't get a whole lot of time once it's on. You want to do it in little bits anyway. And the good thing about this particular block is that we have the little reservoir on the side. Okay. And then generally we will cycle the power supply, so we'll keep an eye on the water in the reservoir as it sucks it through. And then stop. It looks like it's going to be quite a slow moving beast, this one, unfortunately. But if you've got a friend to help you, one can squeeze and the one can power cycle. That's generally quite a bit of a help. So it's pretty much straight off, straight on again. So yeah, so effectively what you want to do is rotate the radiator around as much as possible so you can't hear any noise in it, get all the air out, and constantly fill it up as and when. Now of course some air bubbles will still be in there, some smaller ones, so you know, the good thing about this is, you know, if you can lay your computer down, you can always fill more in once you've been using it. So, you know, just probably just install it, give a check on it in about 24 hours time, and you know, closely monitor it after you filled it, and then yeah, you can really go from there and start adding, you know, just top it up the tiny bit that it will need. But luckily, you know, the reservoir is actually like gives you a little bit of tolerance on this, which isn't too bad. I think I've realised why it's cloudy actually. I think I put the Mystic Fog in here rather than I mean, it's still got the same stuff in it, but this was meant to be for the other computer, but it doesn't matter. Never mind. It all does the same function. So yeah, there you have it. It went not quite as smooth as I was expecting. I think it will look quite neat once it's in the computer though, and it is something that you can do with this AIO that you can't do with, you know, your NZXTs or or any of your Corsair ones that I'm aware of. I think Fractal may have released one that you could, but yeah, it's nice to sort of have like the semi-custom loop being open to more people, so that's good to see. You'll see this in an upcoming video when this will actually be installed in the case. So make sure you check out, or subscribe I guess, to make sure you catch that. But yeah, effectively, that's all there is really to it. If you've got any questions, leave them down below. Any suggestions for, you know, how I can improve my janky GPU block. By the way, this is just meant to be for fun. So it's something that I bought a while ago that I thought might be cool to test out on some older graphics cards to see if it is actually better than the stock coolers. So that's something I will look at in time. Like I say, once I've got the correct fittings to allow it to fit in the case. But yeah, other than that, thanks for watching everybody. I'll see you all very soon. Bye for now.